Just make sure that it's working. All right, Chris, take it away. Let's start.
So hey folks, welcome to the August 2022 Azure Arc Community Meetup. Got a special event today. As you know, I'm Chris Sanders, and I've been running this event for the past few years. And I'm going to hand it over now to someone you all know and love, Lior Kamrat. He's been at these meetups for a couple of years. You know him through the community, through a lot of different channels. And so Lior is going to start taking over these meetups and many other aspects of community for Azure Arc. So with that, I'll say goodbye and I'll hand it to Lior.
Chris, thanks so much for everything that you did for our community. It's been a pleasure working with you on this, and I'm happy to take over and just kind of lead charge on this. Thanks everyone for joining, and thank you so much, Chris, for doing this again. And with that, let's just get going. We have a pretty packed agenda today. So first thing first, as a disclaimer, again, this is a non-NDA call. So the things that you're going to hear about today are things that are publicly known. And we are going to share more details around some NDA related communities and all that in the next few weeks. Generally speaking, you're going to see some changes going on in the next few weeks around how the community is going to be shaping out and some of the logistical updates that we have today. But generally speaking, if you want to be part of this, feel free. In the meantime, feel free to reach out to me via email. You have my email here on the slide. But, generally speaking, be kind. This is an open forum. Feel free to ask questions on the chat, and we're going to have some time later on for some more questions from all the presenters in the call. With that, let's just get going. We have a pretty packed agenda today. So as you can see, we're going to talk about some Jumpstart stuff, updates around data services, Windows Admin Center, Auto-Manage, Arc-enabled VMware vSphere, Stack HCI, Resource Bridge, Arc-enabled servers, and private link survey that we're asking for some help. So like I mentioned, a pretty packed agenda. So let's just get going. All right. First thing first, let me try to be short and sweet about this one, the Azure Arc Jumpstart monthly update. So we decided to pack together the June and the July release. So that's why you're seeing this right now. And it was a pretty packed release, like every release that we have. This one, we focused on multiple things around the scenarios that we developed, but the ones that I want to call out in the list that you're seeing here is the multiple contribution coming from the community, from folks like Alejandro and Pablo around new scenarios for the policy and the AMA agent and Azure Arc-enabled Kubernetes. We also have new scenarios for Azure Arc-enabled VMware vSphere. You're going to hear about Azure Arc-enabled VMware vSphere later on in this call. And also our first scenario for the Dapper extension. As you know, cluster extensions with Azure Arc-enabled Kubernetes is a big part of Azure Arc-enabled Kubernetes. And we're happy to release the first scenario for that. So that's already available in the Jumpstart for you to consume. We also have a new scenario for Azure Arc-enabled SQL Managed Instance with Active Directory authentication and with Customer Managed Key Tab. That was a mouthful. This one is a pretty strategic scenario, which we're going to rely on later on in the new RBox flavors that we're going to create in a few weeks here or a few months. So definitely worth go and check those out. New scenarios, part of this release, all the details are in the release notes and everything that you need is there. Also want to provide a quick update on RBox. So as you know, RBox is, one of our, besides the scenario, this is our core product that is bundling multiple scenarios together into a single deployment unit. And in this release, we focused on few optimizations. Like any release that we are doing with RBox, we're always trying to see what are the version bumps that we can go with in terms of Kubernetes, specifically with Cluster API, and the peripherals around that, like cluster control CLI and the Cluster API Azure provider. So as you can see, we made some bumps along the way. We actually already, in terms of Kubernetes, we're already in 124.3, not .2, as you can see here. We already made those changes. So these are available to you right now. Also, in the spirit of trying to put some guardrails around the RBox, we also decided to increase the number of control plane nodes for the Cluster API from 1 to 3, making sure that we have enough capacity in the control plane layer in order to do all the things that we want to do. And also for some cost optimization, we decided to reduce or change the SKU for, I want to say 99% of all the virtual machines that are part of our box to be series virtual machines. The only machine that will stay the way it is right now in the D series is the client virtual machine that you log into in order to kick off the automation and manage our box. This is because we do need the nested virtualization capabilities that are that's being leveraged as part of our box. And generally speaking, some API updates, part of the ARM templates and the bicep templates. So just gonna make sure that we are in the latest and greatest. And as a complementary thing, we also did some updates around the docs. So these are really, in a nutshell, all the updates that we have. Again, feel free to reach out if you have any questions. I know that few folks from the Jumpstart team are also on the chat to answer some questions. And with that, like I mentioned, we do have a packed agenda. I'll be here, obviously, for the chat and for the rest of the call. So feel free to ask some questions. And with that, I'm gonna hand it over to Dinakar. Dinakar, are you on? All right. I don't know if Dinakar is on. All right, I don't see Dinakar, so we're gonna move on and wait for him to join. Let's go over to Windows Admin Center. Rashid, you on? Where are all the PMs today? Okay, moving on. Not the best start, not the best start. All right, Megan, are you on?
Yes, I'm here.
All right, thank you, Megan.
Awesome.
If you want to take it away or you want me to advance the slide, up to you.
Yeah, if you would just mind advancing the slide, and I think that would be great. Perfect. So hey everybody, my name is Megan and I am a PM on the Auto Manage team. And so we really wanted to talk to you guys about some of the new capabilities that we have inside of Auto Manage. To take a quick step backwards though, in case you haven't heard of Auto Manage, our real goal is to help reduce the operational burden that customers have to spend on a day-to-day basis managing servers inside of Azure or if connected through Azure Arc. And what we do is through the Auto Manage Machine Best Practices service, we actually onboard, configure you, and we monitor best practice services throughout the lifetime of your machine. And so this is really great, especially when we think about it in relation to Azure Arc, because Azure Arc-enabled servers allow you to take advantage of management services, and then Auto Manage can automatically configure those services for you. So the two really go well hand in hand. And so we're actually inside of our public preview right now for both Arc-enabled servers and Azure virtual machines. And we have a really easy enablement experience. And so we actually want to do a quick demo here in a minute where we'll take a look at how this looks like in the portal for you to actually go and take advantage of Auto Manage, where we can actually onboard you to a set of the best practice services. But then we also have policies for at-scale scenarios. We've got templates and more. So we're going to dig into this in just a minute. But before we go there, I want to hand it off to Jody really quickly to talk about the Auto Manage Machine Configuration Service.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for hopping on this call this morning. Excited to be talking to you. So we have a couple of updates for Auto Manage Machine Configuration. And if that name sounds unfamiliar, that's okay. That makes sense. We were formerly known as Guest Configuration, and we've rebranded to fall under the Auto Manage suite of services. And so along this rebrand, we're really excited to announce the GA of our enforcement mode. So what this allows you to do is apply configurations inside your machine, as well as create custom configuration packages using the latest GA release of our policy module. We've also released a new built-in policy to set the desired TLS version to your machines through a built-in policy, and this is all available in our documentation, which is linked on the slide here. If you have any other questions, feel free to reach out, and I'll hand it back over to Megan.
Thanks so much, Jody. So, Lior, I'm just going to take control of the screen really quick where we can do a live demo.
Go for it. Yep.
Wonderful. Are you guys able to see?
Yes, good to go.
Perfect. So here I am on the Azure portal. And so what I can do is I can just search for Auto Manage here inside of the search box, and it will take me to the Auto Manage service. And this is basically our landing page where you can see the Azure Machine Best Practices, where you can go and manage your machines, or you can manage these things called configuration profiles. Before jumping in there, to the configuration profiles, I'm first going to look at this auto manage machine best practices. And when I click on this manage button, I can see here that I've already got a lot of VMs that are being onboarded or that are already onboarded. But let's actually take a look at the enablement experience. So whenever I click on enable on existing machines, here's where I see the first options that I have around applying auto manage is I need to choose a configuration profile. So you can see that there's 3 options here on the list. We have production, dev test, and custom. And if I view the best practice profiles, here's where I can actually see what are the differences between the production and the dev test. So I can see things like machine insights monitoring, backup, defender, anti-malware, update management. And I can even look to see like what are the settings that get applied whenever I choose the best practices production profile. And then I could even switch over and I can look at the dev test profile and I can see that, for instance, monitoring is missing from this list. And it's because potentially for a dev test workload, you might not need to use monitoring, a robust monitoring solution for your dev test workloads, and that might help you save on some cost. But these profiles here, they come from the Cloud Adoption Framework, which really kind of outlines if you're running a machine inside of Azure or using Azure Management Services, here's how we recommend you to be configured. And so what we've done is we basically have taken that, and rather than you having to go and piecemeal all of these different offerings together, we can do it for you. And that's really nice, especially for the Azure Arc side too, because you really want to connect through Azure Arc to take advantage of these services. But we did hear feedback from customers that they actually want to pick and choose from the set of services. And they don't necessarily want to be locked in to the really opinionated set that is inside the production and the dev test workloads. So we introduced something called our custom profiles, which allows you to basically come and pick and choose from that list of services. So for instance, maybe you don't want to use the Microsoft anti-malware solution because you have your own anti-malware that you are required to use. So you can easily opt out of that. And similarly, you can come and you can opt in or out to any of the other services that you want to. So by easily checking these check marks. And then you can create your custom profile. And once you create that custom profile, I'm going to go ahead and for time purposes, just switch back over to a production profile. But once you select your profile that you'd like to use, here's where you can basically come in and you can say what machines should this profile be applied to. And so here I can see for my subscription, I've got a lot of machines. I'm going to skip to page 5 because I know I've got some Arc machines over here. So I've got inside of my subscription a few machines that are Arc-enabled. So you can see that the server type are Arc servers. Here's the operating type, our operating system. So I have Windows and Linux. So I can enable Arc servers. I can enable just regular virtual machines. So I now have chosen my profile. I've chosen the machines that I want to onboard them to, and I can easily hit that review and create button, which will do a quick validation. And then I can hit that create, where now this profile, so I chose the production profile in this case, but the production profile will now be assigned to all of these machines. And not only that, but we will actually not only onboard all of the services to the machines that we've selected, but auto manage will automatically detect if any machine has drifted from the desired configuration. So if, let's say, a machine, if an extension is removed from the machine that no longer allows monitoring to work end to end, we will recognize that and we'll reapply that extension to make sure that monitoring is working end to end. So auto manage works throughout the entire life cycle of the machine. It's not just an onboarding configuration tool, but we actually monitor the configuration for these services. So we just wanted to showcase that really quickly. And then 2, if you are on like an Arc server itself, we are also inside of the table of contents here, where if you wanted to just check this out for your Arc server machine, you can easily onboard through this experience as well. That would allow you to check here. And then we have an Azure policy for at-scale scenarios. But I know this was a really quick demo, but I know we're a little tight on time with the agenda. So I'll take a look at the chat in case there's any questions. But with that, I'll hand it back over to Lior.
Thanks so much, Megan. Gotta love me some auto manage. And, you know, for the folks here on the call, make sure to pay close attention to the social media posts that we are posting, because we're about to do some more deep dives on auto manage. So pretty excited about this. Let me share again the deck here with everyone. And with that, All right. Let me just hand it over to Sneet. All right. Sneet, sorry, you're on. Take it away.
Yeah. Thanks, Leo. You can go to the next slide. So hi, everyone. We released Arc-enabled VMware vSphere public preview at the end of March. You're seeing some good adoption. And since then, we've made some updates, hopefully helping you adopt it in even more cases. We recently announced support for vSphere 7. This was a thing that a lot of customers were starting to adopt vSphere 7 and already are adopting vSphere 7. So now Arc-enabled VMware vSphere now also supports vSphere 7 in addition to 6.7. And we've also upped the scale. Previously, Arc-enabled VMware vSphere only supported vCenter servers that were managing up to 2.5 KVMs. This is now upped to 6.5 KVMs. So you can use the single resource bridge to manage a vCenter server that's managing up to 6.5 KVMs. We've added support for one more region, Australia East. We have a few more regions in the pipeline. We'll announce those as we make them available in those regions. As we learned from our public preview experience, we've improved some of the reliability around installing the Arc agent, especially because this is driven directly from Azure. You would be able to use an API or an ARM template to deploy the Arc agent as well once the vCenter has been Arc enabled. So we've made some improvements in terms of reliability, as well as made some more improvements in error messages. Sometimes when the install fails, it's clear why it failed, if it was related to a prereq, or if there's a network setting that's not allowing us to install the agent, or things like that. So we would love to have more customers try this out and provide us feedback. I've shared my, you can reach out to me and some resources in there as well. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Sneet. All right. Abhilasha.
Yep. Hey, everyone. I'm Abhilasha, a PM on the AKS on Azure Stack HCI and Windows Server team, and I'm here to talk about the June and July release of AKS HCI. So the first one is that we've released GA for autoscale. So with this feature, you can automatically scale up and down your AKS HCI clusters based on a configuration that you pass, and based on the needs of your applications running on top of it. The autoscale feature looks very similar to what it's available, how it's available in AKS in Azure. So if you've been using AKS in Azure, this feature will be very easy for you to implement in your data center. The second feature as part of July that we released was multiple load balancers for high availability. So with this release, we support running multiple load balancer instances per cluster. And with this feature, if one load balancer instance fails, another instance will take over. And this means that your Kubernetes API server is always highly available, and it ensures that external traffic can always reach the services running inside your cluster. There are multiple types of load balancers supported in AKS HCI, KubeVip, HA proxy, and bring your own load balancer. The high availability feature is available in HA proxy configuration. We've also updated KubeVip version from 0.3.4 to 0.4.4. KubeVip is the load balancer component for all control plane API servers in your workload clusters, as well as the management cluster. Upgrading this version introduces not only a series of bug fixes and CV related changes, it also moves us on to the latest supported minor release of 0.4, and that contains several new features like automatic load balancing for control planes, automatic detection of the interface for the API server VIP, as well as several functional improvements basically aimed at increasing the stability of the AKS HCI platform. We've been hearing from multiple customers that their on-prem Azure Stack HCI Windows Server data center is behind a firewall, and that the number of IP addresses currently required to run AKS HCI is too high in some cases. So we've been working for a more security conscious customers, and we've been breaking down the URLs required for your management cluster during install and update versus for your workload clusters to run as daily operations. So expect a change in documentation coming soon to allow for final control of what's in and outbound traffic that you need to set up through your firewalls. Now, the last feature is the CSV round robin. So earlier, when you supplied your CSVs to manage your AKS HCI clusters during install, we basically used all the CSVs available in your data center. So we've introduced a new feature to disable round robin, so you can specify exactly which CSV you want to use to manage your AKS HCI clusters. A couple of notable bug fixes. With this release, resources are automatically cleaned up in the instance of creation failure. So whether it's installing AKS HCI or creating a new target cluster, if for some reason due to network configurations or firewalls or storage availability, your resources are not created, we automatically clean it up for you. We've added improved reliability through bug fixes for migrating VMs between physical nodes in a cluster. For whatever reason, if the VMs are automatically migrated, there's better reliability, and we've fixed a few bugs to improve that. We've added checks for VMs in deleting state, so you cannot run actions against it, against a node pool, for instance, while it's being deleted. So if you're using autoscale to scale down your cluster, right? The VMs that are at the back end of your Kubernetes nodes are now in deleting state. So now you will not be able to like deploy a new application on that VM. And that's just further improvement in reliability and the experience. We earlier had a file name manipulation bug that would cause new clusters to fail. And so that's been fixed in the July release. So this is all what's generally available today on AKS on Azure Stack HCI. For the last few months, we've had a private preview, which enables you to create similar AKS HCI clusters, but from Azure Arc and through Azure. So right now, what's available in GA is creating and managing AKS HCI clusters using PowerShell and using Windows Admin Center. The private preview enables you to create AKS HCI clusters using Azure CLI. So if you want to sign up for that private preview, please contact me and I can get you set up for the private preview. Some resources, if you want to look at our docs, then the link is aka.ms/AKS docs. And if you want to register for the private preview, it's aka.ms/arc-AKS private preview. If you have any questions about AKS on Azure Stack HCI or Windows Server, you can contact me, Sarah Thomas, or Daniel for the private preview. Are there any questions?
No questions in the chat, Abhilasha.
All right. Okay. Thank you, Leon.
Thank you so much for the update, Abhilasha. And with that, Aline, I believe this is your first time presenting to this group, correct?
This is my first time presenting to this group.
So welcome to the Azure Arc community. I'm excited to have you. And with that, take us away.
Cool. Hey, everybody. My name is Aileen Tran. I'm a new PM for Azure Arc Resource Bridge and excited to share some quick updates with you all. Go on. Yep. All right. So some cool news here for you is that we've recently rolled out to 3 additional regions for a whopping total of 7 regions that Resource Bridge is now available in. We are taking requests for additional regions. If you'd like to see Resource Bridge support the region that you want, feel free to contact me and we can get it in for next year's planning. The other update I have for you is that there is a CLI command name change. So the old command set credential has been updated with a new name, update infra credentials, to be more specific about what it is. But it's the same behavior. So basically, the credentials that are rotated is the infra credentials used by Resource Bridge to access the provider infrastructure. And if you've got any feedback, any requests, or if you're just bored, feel free to contact me. And that's all that I got for you.
Thank you so much, Aline, and extra bonus points for the punching emoji there on the slide. Thank you so much for coming and presenting. All right, and with that, Arnav, take us away.
Hey folks, Arnav from the Arc-enabled server side of the house, and a couple of updates in our neck of the woods. So we can go ahead to the next slide. So we're excited to have support for connecting the agent to Azure China Cloud with continued kind of regional accessibility focus there. We've also added support for Debian 10, and this is kind of part of our emphasis on more and more Linux distro support to meet our Linux customers. And so you'll continue to see, added OS support with validation for more Linux distros coming up, especially as we kind of close in on gaps with core extension service capabilities like the MDE supported Linux distros as well. One thing you might have noticed, fingers crossed you didn't because you had no errors and were able to use the AZCM agent command perfectly, but we actually had enhanced error messages and colorization. So you might be able to see this when you're actually troubleshooting or running into issues with the AZCM agent command line. And finally, we also wanted to note the detection of GCP metadata as well within the Arc-enabled server. So we're now collecting a handful of GCP metadata items, and we're continuing to see usage with GCP VMs, particularly Defender for cloud capabilities that you can use within your GCP VMs. Wanted to call out a couple of public previews that we're seeing from around the kind of Arc-enabled server ecosystem. We know there was so much focus in terms of update management center, and everyone is really looking forward to it. So that's now public preview. You're able to use that. Also, lots of interest for the VM insights based on AMA, and that also went public preview with Arc support. And finally, lots of interest for machine configuration under Azure Auto Manage that was touched on earlier today. And so that's generally available with set mode with DYNE policies as well. And that's built in again to the connected machine agent for Arc-enabled server. So lots of updates across the sort of Arc ecosystem for all of the capabilities that you can use with Arc-enabled servers across, Update Management Center, VM Insights, machine configuration, and you're going to continue to see more of the kind of AMA-based V2 of the Azure services go public preview and GA over the course of this year, and we're really excited for that as well. So that's kind of a high-level overview of some of the updates. Continue to work on support, regional availabilities, more distros, and enhancing kind of the metadata we're collecting, the error experience, while also having more and more investments in terms of the broader kind of ecosystem of Azure services that are available for Arc-enabled servers. One thing that I want to call out is right now we are interested in providing input into a discovery appliance. So we're investigating a discovery appliance to actually inventory servers before deployment, right? Identifying what are the non-Azure machines that are both, connected to a workspace, but also, non-Azure machines that are all around your GCP, AWS, VMware, all of the multiple environments. So you can come up with a sort of roadmap for potential deployment to Arc. And so we're designing a potential discovery appliance for this and want to validate whether this is really something there's a lot of customer need and demand for. So we would love your perspective on this, and I've put in the ak.ms Arc Discover interview link. And so if you're interested, you can sign up there for sessions on providing input and kind of shaping our product investment as well. So I'm looking in the chat. Any questions? And I'm seeing Azure Arc is a great solution for common tax data collection issues, where for tax compliance or audit, the data endpoints could reside on premise and in hybrid clouds. Yep, definitely. And finally, I do want to thank Chris again, who's been driving the meetup for so long, and appreciation virtual from my end. So that's a wrap in terms of the updates from the Arc-enabled server side. Thanks.
Thanks so much, Arnav. And I just want to comment on something here. One big like on the Azure China thing. This is something that we've been getting tons of requests around the China availability. So big like there. And I am a fan of the small things, and the error messaging and colorization is definitely something that I was looking forward to. So thanks so much for the update here, Arnav. And with that, Jillian, are you on?
Yes, I'm here. Thanks,
All right.
Lior. So I just wanted to quickly mention here that we're requesting feedback from customers who have used Azure Private Link or are interested or are planning on using it. For those who aren't aware, Private Link enables you to access Azure PaaS services over a private endpoint in your virtual network. So this survey is short. It's a 5-question survey. At the end, there's a place for you to kind of provide your email if you're interested in participating in an interview based on your feedback. So with this survey, we definitely want to learn more about your planning, configuration, and deployment experiences and needs for private links. So here in the resources, you can see a couple more items about private link from Microsoft Docs. And you can also access the survey at both the links here. So if you have any questions about this survey or about private link in general, you can feel free to reach out to me, and I'll pass it right back to you, Lior.
Thank you so much, sir, for the update. And I do apologize at the beginning on behalf of the 2 PMs that weren't able to show up. They did reach out and said that, something, personal. So it's all good. These things happen. So let me bring us home for a second here and open the camera so we can all see my beautiful face. Well, like I mentioned, first of all, again, thank you so much, Chris, for leading this community call in the past, I want to say almost 2.5 years, at least since I started coming into this meetup. So thank you so much again, Chris, for everything that you've done for this community. And again, like I mentioned, you are going to see some changes going on with how we are operating with this community in terms of the Teams channel, the GitHub repository that we're going to create. And generally speaking, a lot of communication will go around this, just going to make things a bit tighter here. So I hope everyone enjoyed everyone coming, all the PMs coming and presenting to you and making sure that you have the latest and greatest when it comes to the Azure Arc, Azure Stack HCI, and the rest of the hybrid family. Reach out to me personally if you have any questions, something that you're not sure about. More than happy to point you to the right direction or help. And just the general slide, a lot of content that is out there. Azure Arc is really rich in content that is out there. So I want to make sure everyone are aware of those links. And with that, I'm just going to open that for some Q&A. If anyone's got some questions, we still have the PMs on the call, on the chat. Feel free to unmute yourself. We also have, by the way, I just wanted to call out, we have another survey and a request for feedback from Purnima on the chat. So make sure that you're looking at the chat. She needs your help with some of the things that she's leading as well. So make sure to check it out. So thank you so much, Purnima. And now, if you have any questions, please feel free to unmute yourself. All the PMs are here to answer whatever questions that you may have. And if not, feel free to drop, and we're gonna do the same in a few moments here.
Hi, I have a question, if I may.
Of course.
I'm looking for integration with VMware vCloud. Is there any plans on the roadmap, I don't know, in a year or two for going deeper into VMware area?
So I see Snit.
Yeah.
Snit, this is probably to you, right?
Yes. Are you looking for integration with the vCloud tenant, or
yes, with exactly with the tenant of the customers?
Got it. At this point, we don't have anything on the roadmap, particularly to integrate with vCloud, but that's something we are open-minded about, and we need to explore it a little bit more. We've had 1 or 2 customers that have requested it, but it's not been a highly requested feature, but definitely something, again, I would like to talk a little bit more with you about if you have the time.
Of course. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks for the question. Anyone else? Okay. Again, we are available on chat, on the Teams channel. More communication is coming. Make sure to follow us to get, again, the latest updates. And with that, we are on time. So I want to wish everyone a good rest of the week, and we will see you soon. Bye, everyone.
Can I push a question?
Of course, of course. Just on time.
Thank you. It's regarding Azure Arc and Lighthouse. Are you supporting or are intending to have Lighthouse support all capabilities of Azure Arc, so a MSP can manage what the customer may want and desire with Arc, or is there a delayed timetable?
So before I'm sharing my perspective on this, I don't know if any of the PMs that are on the call want to take this up. I don't know if maybe Jane is on the call or not.
Does that mean it was a good question?
No, it was a good question, but I just mean that if there is a dedicated PM that is focusing on this, that is on the call, and if not, we can definitely follow up. All right. Is it Per? That's your name?
Yes,
I hope
correct.
I'm all right. So Per, first of all, feel free to reach out to me also, just kind of do an offline conversation around this. I do admit that Lighthouse is something that I haven't touched for a while now in terms of the integration. I believe that this, based on the Jumpstart scenario that we had for Lighthouse and the investigation that we had, Azure Lighthouse is basically a wrapper on top of, the management capabilities, so to speak. So it should just work per se. At the end of the day, Azure Lighthouse just looking at resources that are on other tenants. So, as an MSP, you should be able, if you have those subscription already as part of your management stack for Lighthouse, you should be able to see all the Azure Arc-enabled resources that are part of those subscriptions. So there is no, as far as I know, and we can definitely follow up, but as far as I know, there is no dedicated or integration on the API level when it comes to Lighthouse and Arc. But it is something that that's just supposed to work. And I don't know, maybe Klaus has got some insights on this.
Yeah, actually, I was going to ask a question: is what do we mean by features? And because there's really no hard dependency between Lighthouse and Arc.
Yeah.
So what is it exactly that we're trying to do, or that's not working?
Yeah.
I'm asking in general terms because if it's two independent projects, they may have different timetables, and new features in Arc may not be supported by Lighthouse until a later point in time. That was kind of my question. If that is, or when you deploy new features for Arc, will they automatically be supported by Lighthouse, or is that an additional task, right? So.
Yeah,
as an MSP, we would definitely want to be using Lighthouse to manage a customer's account subscriptions where they don't want us to be a member of their own subscription.
Yeah, so you can. We've had this question come up with a couple ISVs that were potentially looking at Arc to manage, agents and things of that nature on Kubernetes clusters or servers. So you can use Lighthouse without Arc, you can use Arc without Lighthouse, or you can use them together. I don't know if you've seen the Avanade isotope solution that kind of nicely weaves the two together, but I can't really think of a scenario where you would need something in Lighthouse for a new Arc feature to work. So I'm struggling a little bit with sort of an example of where the two.
That's fine. We are running test cases internally before we're building new offerings, and we struck into some issues, and that's being troubleshooted by the support team, which is good. But things like insights to Stack HCI, cluster nodes is apparently not fully working with Lighthouse, and they're helping us troubleshooting it. It's been going on for a month. I'm just wondering if there are different timetables. That's basically why I'm asking, right?
All right, I think I understand. All right. HCI is what I would consider a little bit of a separate or edge case, and I'd love for you. Can you send me I'm assuming there's a support case open for it. I'd love to take a look at that and get the HCI team engaged if they haven't looked at it. It's a little bit of a different scenario than sort of generic Arc, if you will. But I'd love to understand that better. So if you could send me that case, I'd love to take a look.
Yes, of course I will. And yes, I'm sorry if I'm mixing HCI and Arc, but kind of I think they go very well hand in hand. And should
they do, but it's a little bit of a one-off. So, but that makes a lot more sense now. So thank you for that detail. That makes a lot more sense now. There's some stuff we're doing with HCI, with HCI in particular, and I could see why there could be an edge case there. So I'd love to dive deeper into that and get the right PMs engaged, if you don't mind.
Please, and yes, I'll connect. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Per, for the question. Good question. And Klaus, thanks so much for jumping in. Per, you also have a bunch of links on the chat for you to check out as well. Feel free to reach out over email, and we can definitely help connecting the dots. So,
thanks, I will. I don't see the chat today, but I'm not sure why, if it's my problem, but could be.
All right, we'll make sure, send an email. We'll make sure we'll get you the right links.
Thank you.
All right. Good question. Anyone else? Any other questions? Feel free to unmute yourself before we are wrapping up. Okay. Going once, twice. Cool. So again, for the second time, enjoy the rest of the week. Thank you so much for joining, and we're going to see you next time. Goodbye, everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.